Regarding the relevant provisions of China's criminal law, Article 266, Crime of Fraud. Whoever defrauds public or private property, if the amount is relatively large, shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not more than 3 years, criminal detention, or public surveillance, and/or shall be fined. If the amount involved is huge or if there are other serious circumstances, the sentence shall be fixed-term imprisonment of not less than 3 years, but not more than 10 years, and a fine shall also be imposed. If the amount involved is particularly huge, or if there are other particularly serious circumstances, the sentence shall be fixed-term imprisonment of not less than 10 years or life imprisonment, and a fine or confiscation of property shall also be imposed. Initially, I was sentenced to 10 years. Due to good behavior, I spent 8 years in prison. I'm sharing my story now because I want more people to understand what northern Myanmar is really like, to not go there rashly, and, even more importantly, not to believe in any get-rich-quick schemes that sound too good to be true. I was among the relatively early groups of people who were tricked into going to northern Myanmar. I practically witnessed the entire evolution of the industry there. First, I hope that those who dream of striking it rich in northern Myanmar will abandon any illusions. If you can't even make it in the Pearl River Delta, what makes you think you can make it in the Golden Triangle? Don't think you're all that. In northern Myanmar, there are plenty of people tougher and more ruthless than you, but none of them meet a good end. Second, I hope that by reading what I've written, people can take some precautions and avoid unnecessary tragedies. There's a saying in northern Myanmar, it's not that they can't scam you, it's that you're not worth scamming. Many people think they're too smart to be scammed. What I want to say is first take a look at how much money you have in your pocket and see if you're even worth their effort. In northern Myanmar, there are experts who specialize in designing scams. They are the ones who write the scripts. There are general-purpose scripts and also customized scripts. These so-called general-purpose scripts target a certain group of people, casting a wide net. Customized scripts, on the other hand, are tailor-made for a specific individual. The schemes and tricks involved are utterly impossible to guard against. Take, for example, a case I witnessed firsthand. The target they were trying to scam at the time was an internet celebrity from China. To create a customized script for her, they first had hackers steal all her personal information, including her preferences, how many people were in her family, and the amount of her savings. They knew everything crystal clear. Then, based on this detailed information, they designed a perfect scam specifically for her. The steps and personnel involved were so elaborate you couldn't even imagine them. Even her pet golden retriever was a part of the script. So, what I'm trying to say is no matter what, always keep your guard up. It's not that you're smart, it's just that the scammers haven't targeted you yet. To get back to the main story, I'll now tell you about my experiences in northern Myanmar. That year, I was supposed to be in my sophomore year of college, but because I was addicted to online games, I ended up dropping out early. After that, I just hung out in internet cafes all the time. To get free internet access, I started working as an attendant at an internet cafe near my school. Back then, my monthly salary was 1,200 yuan, and it included food and lodging. 24 hours a day, I was at the internet cafe. The salary I received each month was mostly spent on in-game purchases. It was around that time that I met someone. I don't know his real name. I just called him Lao Zhang. Lao Zhang was a regular at our internet cafe. He was there almost every day. Moreover, whenever he came to the cafe, he'd always get a private room. Over time, I got to know him. I remember one night I was working the night shift, and he asked me to prepare a cup of instant noodles and bring it to him. When I went over, I saw him gambling on a website. It was the kind of gambling site with attractive female dealers dealing cards. Online. It was the first time I'd ever seen anything like it, so I was very curious, and stood in his private room watching him play. Seeing that I was engrossed, he asked if I wanted him to send me the website address. I asked him, "Can you actually withdraw the money you win on this site?" He thumped his chest and assured me, "Of course you can. I've withdrawn money several times already." Hearing him say that, out of curiosity, I asked him for the website address. As a result, From that day on, I became addicted to online gambling. Initially, I deposited 500 yen, played for several days and won over 3,000. At that time, I felt like I was walking on air. I didn't focus on my work and even talked back to my boss. Later, I ended up having a big argument with him, and just like that, I quit my job. I started gambling online with Lao Jiang, and gradually I got sucked in deeper, losing 50 to 60,000 yuan. I didn't actually have that much money to lose. My parents were farmers and our family didn't have much money. It was Lao Jiang who led me to take out online loans, robbing Peter to pay Paul. It was also then that I realized Lao Jiang was a master of borrowing. He juggled several credit cards, and he dared to take out any online loan he could find. For example, even those online loans with exorbitant chop-head interest, where a large portion of the interest is deducted up front, he would take them without hesitation. In his own words, "As long as you dare to lend me money, I dare to take it." He never once thought about repaying his debts, and so I hung around with him for over half a year. Every day I was either gambling online or engaging in Paofen. This Paofen involves using one's own payment channels to help transfer funds for black and grey industries, what we commonly call money laundering. Many people sell their bank cards to others. These are usually empty accounts, and money from of unknown origin is transferred through them. For instance, if someone wants to launder 1 million in illicit funds, they first break up the sum and transfer it to many Paofen bank cards. Then, as soon as the money arrives in these accounts, someone withdraws it all. The people who withdraw the money are called cash mules. Each mule has many Paofen bank cards. Upon receiving instructions from their handlers, they immediately withdraw the cash from ATMs. Finally, they hand over the cash and receive a commission for their withdrawal services. This type of cash-out Paofen used to be quite common, but it's not really feasible anymore because the government, to prevent more people from being victimized, launched the Duan Car Action, card-cutting operation. Besides Paofen, we were also responsible for recruiting people for gambling platforms. As long as we brought people to gamble on these platforms, we would get a kickback. My gambling addiction grew worse and worse until I was completely broke. I even nearly sold my ID card. There were several times back then when I stood on a rooftop wanting to jump. I didn't know how I'd ended up in such a state. Whenever I thought about what had happened over the past 6 months or so, I couldn't help but want to slap myself. It was at this point that Lao Jiang told me he'd found a way out for me. He said his cousin owned a restaurant in Myanmar and asked if I wanted to go work there for 8,000 yuan a month, mainly doing food delivery. I wasn't very keen on going initially, but then he said to me, "Young Lei, you owe so much money now. The lenders will definitely come after you. Think of it as going abroad to lie low for a while. Work hard over there, save up some money, and then you can come back and start fresh." When I heard that, my resolve began to waver. At that time, debt collectors were calling me every day. The calls were filled with all sorts of threats, and they even said they would go after my family. I was already mentally and physically exhausted from these calls, so in the end, I decided to go to Myanmar. But no one could have imagined that this trip would lead to so many ordeals, and that I would nearly lose my life there. After I decided to go to northern Myanmar, Lao Jiang bought me a plane ticket to Kunming. He told me that once I arrived in Kunming, someone would come to pick me up, and I should just go with that person. That was the first time I had ever been on an airplane in my life. Before I left, I even specifically thanked Lao Jiang. Looking back now, I was truly adorably foolish. I'd been sold and was still counting the money for them. When I arrived at Kunming Changshui Airport, I contacted the man who was there to pick me up as soon as I got off the plane. He was about 30 years old with dark skin, around 1.65 meters tall, wearing a floral shirt and had a tattoo on his neck. When he smiled, his yellow teeth were fully visible and his bad breath was suffocating. He took me to a minivan in the parking lot and said, "There are 3 more people coming in a bit. We'll leave once they arrive." His Mandarin wasn't very standard, mixed with some local dialect, making it quite difficult to understand. He He told me his name several times, but I couldn't remember it, so afterwards I just called him Hey Gay. I waited in the van for about an hour or so before he returned with 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman. Among the 3, the woman was younger, looking to be around 18 years old. We chatted a bit in the van and found out that the young woman was still in college and had come out to do a summer job to earn money for her tuition. That evening, after we ate something, Hey Gay drove us to Linkang. Along the way, Hey Gay told us, "It's really hard to make money in China these days. It's easier to get money over in Myanmar." I was a bit puzzled at the time and asked, "Why?" He chuckled and said, "It's all casinos over there. The ones who go there to gamble are all big bosses, driving up the local GDP, so it's very easy to make money there." He also said, "I know several people who work as dealers there. Do you guys know what dealers are? The kind who deal cards. At the gambling tables, you can earn tens of thousands of yuan in a single night." I was stunned listening to him and asked, "Tens of thousands in one night?" "That's right," Hey Gay said, lighting a cigarette and taking a drag. "If a customer wins big and is happy, they might tip you a few thousand." With him talking like that the whole way, it wasn't just me. The eyes of the other 3 traveling with us lit up too. I didn't need them to say anything. I knew what they were thinking. It was nothing more than dreaming about how to strike it rich once they got there. Besides telling us these things, Hey Gay also told us about some Burmese customs. He said things like, "The women over there all put white powder on their faces. If you go there and see it, don't be surprised. It's what they use for beauty. That stuff is called thanaka." As he spoke, he glanced at the girl in the back seat through the rearview mirror. "Do you guys know what they call women in Myanmar?" "Eh?" We shook our heads. He grinned and said, "In Myanmar, girls are called kittens and men are called puppies. Handsome guys are horny roosters and beautiful women are pretty kitties." After Hey Gay said all this, our apprehensive mood quickly lightened. Once we reached Linkang, we were taken to a small courtyard, and from that moment on I never saw Hey Gay again. Later, a local man led us into the mountains at night. We crossed the border on motorcycles and then walked for another hour or 2. By the time the sky was dimly lit at dawn, we were put onto a pickup truck and taken to a compound. As soon as we arrived at the compound, the 4 of us were put into a small room. At that point, we were still a bit dazed and hadn't fully processed what was happening, so no one asked many questions. Because when I was leaving, Lao Zhang had told me that we would need to be smuggled across. He had said at the time, "It's very simple to get over there. Someone will pick you up, and you just follow them." Having walked all night, I was utterly exhausted, so I just found a random bed in the room and fell asleep. The room was somewhat like a school dormitory, filled with bunk beds. The bedding and supplies were very cheap and also filthy, looking like they had been used by countless people. If I hadn't been so tired, frankly, I wouldn't have been able to sleep at all. When I woke up, the girl who had traveled with us was gone. I asked the other 2 men, but they didn't say anything. Just as I was wondering what was going on, a middle-aged man came in, pointed at me, and told me to go with him. I stood up and followed him out, soon arriving at a small room. The man told me to sit, and then began asking about my basic situation. I thought he was Lao Zhang's cousin, so I explained everything in detail. When he heard that I had run away after taking out online loans, he grinned and said, "So you're a college student?" "Yes, a college student," I replied with a somewhat sheepish nod. After all, I had dropped out in my sophomore year, so strictly speaking, I could only be considered half a college student. "Can you use a computer?" "Yes." "I worked as an admin in an internet cafe," I said. The man pursed his lips, took out a pack of Yuxi cigarettes, offered me one, and said, "How's your English?" I was a bit puzzled at that moment. Didn't I just come here to deliver food, I thought. Why are the requirements so high? Not only do I need to know how to use a computer, but I also need to know English. Do I have to deliver food to foreigners? On a daily basis, it's okay, I replied, forcing myself to sound confident. Hearing my reply, the man took a slow drag from his cigarette. "A college student, knows computers, speaks English. Looks like you're quite talented, eh?" I just smiled, not knowing what to say. The man nodded, picked up his phone, and made a call to someone. Shortly after, another man came in. This man was about 28 or 29 years old, wearing black-rimmed glasses, and looked quite scholarly. "Ah Long, a new guy's here. College student, knows computers, knows English," the first man said to the newcomer, then patted my shoulder. "You'll be with Ah Long from now on." Hearing this, I was very confused, but I didn't say much. Ah Long glanced at me and then led me out of the office. When I first arrived, I hadn't paid close attention to what the compound looked like. It was only after he led me downstairs from the building that I got a clear view. The place was huge. Downstairs there were various snack shops, convenience stores, KTVs, and so on. Besides these, there were high walls all around, topped with barbed wire. Long patted my shoulder, smiled at me, and said, "Come on, I'll take you to see where we work." I still thought he was taking me to the restaurant, but after a few turns, he led me into a building. When he pushed open the door and we went inside, I was truly startled. I saw a space of over 1,000 square meters, entirely filled with desks and computers, just like a massive internet cafe. With just a quick glance, I noticed that at every computer, someone was chatting with people online. Before I could even react, Ah Long led me through the main hall and up to the second floor. Arriving at an office, Ah Long tossed me a folder. "This is our company's business. Take a look." I sensed that something was off, but I couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. Once I opened the folder and looked at the materials, everything became clear in an instant. This was a scam operation? Back then, there wasn't much information available in China about northern Myanmar, so before I came, I had no idea it was a haven for scams. The documents Ah Long gave me were mostly about conversational tactics. The information was incredibly detailed, clearly outlining everything from how to initially set up fake social media profiles to how to find clients and how to chat with them. "You're new, so I'll give you a week to get used to the environment. After a week, you'll start on the order flushing scams. My expectations for you are simple. As long as your performance reaches 50,000 in your first month, I'll move you to the currency scams." Ah Long spoke casually, as if he wasn't talking about fraud at all, but rather introducing a job. "You know English, so when you move to currency scams later, you'll definitely be able to close big deals. I have high hopes for you." My throat felt a bit dry. Although I was a good-for-nothing back in China, I had never been involved in fraud. For a moment I was disoriented, feeling a sense of being completely at a loss. Here, closing deals is king. As long as you can close deals, you can have anything you want. Ah Long continued his introduction. "The compound operates under military-style management. You'll figure out the specific schedule after you've been here for a while." I licked my dry lips and asked, "Brother Long, I've never done fraud before." Ah Long smiled and said something rather thought-provoking. "Before I came here, I hadn't done fraud either." Before I could say anything more, he called someone in. This person was about my age. Ah Long introduced him to me. "This is Ah New. He's our group's top performer. He'll guide you. If you need anything, you can also come to me." From that moment on, I knew I had fallen into a den of thieves, and I understood that escaping this place would be as difficult as climbing to heaven. Thinking of Lao Zhang, I couldn't help but curse him inwardly. But by now it was all too late. Ah New's real name was Liu Zheng. He dropped out before even finishing high school and had been drifting around in society ever since. As for how he ended up in northern Myanmar, I didn't know, and he never told me. He took me to the office area, assigned me a workstation, and then began to rattle off the compound's rules. Wake up at 6 every morning, then go downstairs for a run. Breakfast at 7, officially start work at 7:30. Lunch at 12 with a half-hour break. Dinner at 6 in the afternoon. Work ends at 11:30 at night, followed by a meeting if there is one, if not, then running. Back to the dormitory to sleep at 12. Each mealtime must not exceed 10 minutes. During work hours, everyone gets 3 chances to go to the toilet, each time not exceeding 8 minutes. As he spoke, he gestured for me to follow him out, and then he led me to the dormitory. I noticed that after we left the office area, 2 men had been following us. Ah New said, "They are the compound's guards. When new people arrive, they follow them wherever they go." Those 2 men weren't tall and looked like locals, but they were both carrying guns. From their eyes I could tell that if I made any unusual move, they wouldn't hesitate to shoot. The distance from the office area to the dormitory building wasn't very far, but my legs were already feeling weak. When we reached the dormitory, there were 4 beds inside, all bunk beds. Anu pointed to the bottom bunk of the innermost bed and told me, "You'll sleep there from now on. When you get off work at night, wash your own bedding. If you're too lazy to wash it, then once you close a deal, use your own money to buy new stuff." Next, he took me for a walk around the compound's courtyard. When we reached the entrance of a KTV, I saw several scantily clad women standing at the door. Anu grinned lewdly and said to me, "If you close a deal, you can come here to have some fun later. They have all kinds of girls." This place had everything you could imagine. It was practically a small city, just a small city enclosed by walls, and it was very difficult to move around freely. Arriving at the entrance of a small convenience store, Anu went inside, took out a small round token from his pocket, handed it to the owner, and then bought a pack of cigarettes. So after coming out, he offered me one. I took it and saw it was actually huazi. In the compound, you have to use chips to buy things. If you achieve good performance, the commission you get will also be in chips. Anu took out a black chip from his pocket. I glanced at it and saw its face value was 100. He held the chip in his hand, deftly playing with it. "There's a casino over there. If you like to gamble, you can go too." I took a drag from the cigarette. My mouth tasted a bit bitter. I couldn't help but ask, "Brother New, what happens if you can't close any deals?" Although I was already somewhat prepared mentally, when I saw Anu's smile, my heart still couldn't help but sink. "Can't close any deals?" He shrugged and chuckled. "Come on, I'll show you something interesting." We went around a building and arrived at the edge of a muddy pond. I saw many small wooden cages placed in the pond. I noticed that one of the small cages actually had several people locked inside. They were submerged in the water up to their waists, covered in mud, and their expressions were completely indiscernible. "There, see that? Those are the ones who couldn't close any deals," Anu said, pointing at the people in the pond with a triumphant air. "This water is full of leeches. After soaking in here for a day, even if you don't die, you'll lose a layer of skin." I sucked in a cold breath. Anu patted my shoulder. "If you don't want to end up like them, you have to work hard from now on, understand?" I nodded subconsciously, cold sweat involuntarily breaking out on my forehead. After that, Anu told me more about the consequences of disobedience and failing to close deals. Things like being force-fed chili water, electric shock torture, food deprivation, hammer beatings, being scalded with boiling water, the airplane torture, being subjected to ice, having fingernails pierced. The more I listened, the more my hair stood on end. What I've mentioned is still relatively mild. If you dare to run and get caught, it's perfectly normal for them to cut a kidney from you. Cut a kidney? I was stunned for a moment. Anu smiled and pointed to a small single-story building not far away. "See that place over there? That place is called the hospital. If you're taken in there, you can basically forget about coming out alive. Anything valuable on your body, they'll take it all off you, pancreas, liver, corneas, whatever they can remove." Looking at that red brick building for a moment, even my breathing became rapid. "Don't be scared," Anu said. "As long as you work hard, you can live quite comfortably here. If you can become a manager, no one will bother you when you go in or out." For a moment, it was as if I had grasped a life-saving straw. The word manager kept swirling in my mind. Before I could think too much, the phone in Anu's pocket rang. I had already noticed earlier that this phone could only receive calls, not make them, nor could it access the internet. "What?" Okay, I'll head over right now, no problem." Anu licked his lips, hung up the phone, looking somewhat excited. He glanced at me and said, "Kid, you're in luck. You've come at a good time. I'll take you to blow off some steam." I didn't quite understand what he meant by that. "There's a woman from the same batch as you who's being disobedient. How Gay wants us to go drive the train," Anu said, raising his eyebrows. Hearing this, my heart lurched, and the image of that young woman involuntarily surfaced in my mind. Instantly, a complex mix of emotions surged through me: anger, fear, and helplessness. By the time Anu led me to the doorway of a small room, several men were already standing in the hallway. Their faces all bore a hint of excitement as they craned their necks, peering into the room. Even before I got close, I could hear heart-wrenching cries coming from inside. "Please, Usa, don't, help. Save me." Besides the cries, I also heard bursts of jeering laughter and curses. These two sounds filled my ears simultaneously, making me instinctively clench my fists. But as soon as my fists tightened, I thought of those people I had just seen soaking in the leech-filled pond. My hands couldn't help but tremble, and my clenched fists gradually loosened. "Damn it, are you done yet? Can you hurry up? Don't you see so many people waiting outside?" Someone at the door cursed impatiently. "What's the rush? I've only just started." A voice came from inside the room. Time ticked by, second by second, and as I stood outside, my mind felt somewhat empty. The girl's cries had become faint and hoarse, almost inaudible. I don't know how much time passed before someone pushed me. "Your turn, hurry up, we still have to get back to work after this." I snapped back to reality, realizing that at some point I was already standing inside the room. Anu was fastening his belt while raising an eyebrow at me. I glanced at the naked girl lying on the bed. One of her hands was handcuffed to the bed frame's railing. There were bloody marks on her wrist, clearly from her struggles earlier. Her clothes had long since been stripped off, and her face was covered in bruises. One of her eyes was bloodshot, an alarming shade of red. Apart from various filth and injuries, not an inch of her skin seemed unscathed. Her gaze was somewhat vacant. Even when our eyes met, there was no flicker of emotion. Her mouth moved up and down as if trying to scream something, but not a sound came out. "Hurry up," Anu urged. "Don't waste time." My whole body couldn't stop shaking. I wanted nothing more than to turn and run. But I didn't even have the courage to flee. After a moment, I tried my best to control my emotions. "Brother New, I don't want to do it." "Don't want to do it?" Anu was taken aback, then frowned slightly. "Is this woman your friend?" I shook my head. "Then why don't you want to do it? You think we get to drive the train every day? Opportunities like this are rare." Hearing his words, an invisible rage filled my chest. I wanted to kill him right then and there. "Anu, are you done?" Voice came from the doorway, and a man with a small mustache walked in. "How gay!" Upon seeing him, Anu respectfully called out. The man called Hauge glanced at me. "Is this a new piglet for your group?" "Yeah," Anu said with a smile and a nod. "Oh? So he came with this woman then?" Anu nudged me with his shoulder and whispered, "Hurry up and greet Hauge." I looked at the mustached man before me and reluctantly called out, "Hauge, what's your name?" "Yang Lei." Hauge looked at me with a smile, then suddenly slapped me hard across the face. The slap stunned me. Before I could react, he kicked me in the stomach. Instantly, I stumbled back several steps. If Anu hadn't been behind me to catch me, I probably would have collapsed onto the floor. "Fuck your mother. Who the hell do you think you are? Dare to glare at me again and I'll show you." Anu forced a smile and said, "Hauge, he's new and doesn't know the rules. I'll teach him properly later." "Anu, you know I've always looked out for you, never forgetting to include you in anything good." Yes. I keep it all in mind." "I'm very grateful to Hauge." Hauge smiled. "So when are you coming over to my group?" Anu looked troubled. "Hauge, you know Brother Long, I'll take care of Long. Just give me a definite answer." Anu seemed conflicted. After a moment of hesitation, he gritted his teeth and said, Next month I'll go over to your side, Hauge." "Good. Then I'll wait for you. When you come to my group, I guarantee you'll live well." "Thank you, Hauge." After the two chatted for a bit, Hauge glanced at me, then at the girl lying on the bed. "You little bastard, give me a live show and I'll let you off the hook for our news sake." As he spoke, he sat down on a nearby chair and a lackey behind him lit a cigarette for him. There were at least 7 or 8 people in the room, all staring at me, their faces showing they were eager to watch a good show. Hauge, he just arrived today, you see. Anu still wanted to speak up for me, but before he could finish, Hauge interrupted him. "Anu, I'm not doing anything to him. I just want to watch a live show. Didn't you bring him here to do this?" Anu gave a wry smile, then turned to me. "Since Hauge has spoken, you should hurry up. We still have to get back to work after this." Saying that, he pushed me towards the bed. Looking at the girl on the bed, who was barely breathing, I felt my anger reach its absolute limit. A bunch of animals. Fuck your mothers, hurry up, what are you dawdling for? Damn it, don't tell me he doesn't even know how to do it. This son of a bitch isn't a eunuch, is he? All sorts of vile and abusive words swirled around my ears. Besides the smell of smoke, there was another unpleasant, strange odor in the air. I felt my senses becoming distorted. In my mind, I kept roaring, Yang Lei! If you're still human, then fucking kill them. Suddenly, I felt a kick to my back, and my whole body lunged forward onto the bed, landing heavily on the girl. It was at that exact moment that I clearly heard her faint voice, Run! 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 She kept repeating that one word. That word was like a mantra imprinted on my mind. Pull his pants off, Hauge ordered. Soon I felt someone pulling at my pants. I tried to struggle, but it was completely useless. My hands and feet were pinned down firmly, and I couldn't move at all. I finally understood what despair felt like. At that moment, tears streamed uncontrollably from my eyes. Don't, I cried out hoarsely, but it was utterly futile. Just as my pants were about to be yanked down, a voice rang out. What the fuck do you think you're doing? The appearance of this voice made the people pulling at my pants stop. Like a startled bird, I scrambled off the bed and sat on the floor. I saw Ah Long standing at the doorway with two men. When I saw him, I hurriedly crawled from the floor to his feet, subconsciously crying and shouting, Brother Long, save me! A few hours had given me a profound understanding of this place. Once you were here, you were no different from livestock. So-called dignity was worthless. Ah Long helped me up from the floor and looked at Hauge. Howsy, he's my man. Aren't you going a bit too far? Oh, is our brother Long angry? Hauge stood up, walked over and looked at me. You little bastard. I let you come over to have some fun, but you didn't have the balls for it. You can't blame me for that. Then his expression changed to a smile. Ah Long, since this little bastard is your man, then you better keep a good eye on him. Don't let him fucking wander around aimlessly. This is our group's dormitory. At this point, Anu ran over, pulled me aside and lowered his head to greet Ah Long. Ah Long's expression didn't change. He glanced at the naked girl not far away. A newcomer who just arrived today, and you guys have already ruined her. You're really something. Your group certainly has a lot of people. What the fuck do you mean? Hauge frowned and asked. Just the literal meaning, Ah Long said with a slight smile. I heard your group hasn't met its targets for 2 months now. I don't know what the supervisor is thinking, keeping so many idle people around, just eating, drinking, shitting, and not doing any work. Say that again, you motherfucker! Hauge's eyes widened as he roared. Instantly, the others in the room swarmed over. The two men behind Ah Long also tensed up. For a moment, the atmosphere became incredibly tense, like a drawn bow. What? Hauge wants to mess with me today, Ah Long said with a laugh. If you want to mess with me, that's fine. But then our group's performance will be troubling you, Hauge. It was clear that Hauge was furious. The veins on his neck were bulging, and his teeth were grinding audibly. This standoff lasted for about 20 seconds before Hauge's phone rang. He took it out, answered the call, then glared at Ah Long and spat out, We'll see about this. There'll be a time when I'll make you pay. Soon he left the dormitory with his men. When only a few of us were left in the room, Ah Long took an electric baton from one of the men behind him and, without a word, jabbed it directly at Ah Nu. Instantly, Ah Nu screamed, his whole body convulsing. Uncontrollably, tears and snot gushed out and he collapsed onto the floor. Brother Long, I was wrong, Brother Long. Brother Long, spare me. Ah Long squatted down and looked at him. Don't you forget, you're my man. If you fucking hang out with Howsy again, watch out or I'll kill you. I won't. I won't. Brother Long, I know I was wrong. Ah Long snorted, coldly. Damn it, give you an inch and you take a mile. Know your fucking place, asshole. Then he looked at me. And you? Keep your eyes peeled. If you don't meet your performance target this month, you'll see how I deal with you. I remained silent, not daring to respond. Having witnessed the cruelty of the compound, I had no choice but to start working the next day. Even though I desperately didn't want to engage in fraud, I had no way out. As for the girl who had been subjected to the train, I never saw her again after that day. John Yu told me that girls like her were either sent to be armrest girls or kept as milk cows. At that time, I didn't know what armrest girls and milk cows meant. It was only later that I understood. Armrest girls were sent to KTVs to accompany clients in partying, drinking, and taking drugs. When customers got high and needed something to lean on, that something was an armrest girl. As for milk cows, they were women who, after getting pregnant and giving birth, would lactate, constantly producing human milk. Some people would pay high prices to consume this human milk or use it to make dairy products. It was said that some local big bosses or wealthy individuals particularly favored these human milk dairy products. During the first few days of work, I was constantly on edge, my nerves stretched taut. I basically couldn't sleep at night. I was always thinking about how to escape. But from this place, escape was almost impossible. During that time, I also saw a few people who had tried to run away and were caught. Their fates were even worse. Some had their ears cut off. Others had their Achilles tendons severed and spent their days crawling around the compound. This day was like any other. I went through another day of work in a daze. I had planned to go back and rest early after work, but there was a general meeting, so I had to go to the sports ground. It was past midnight and the sports ground was brightly illuminated by searchlights. Guards carrying guns surrounded the area. Everyone stood obediently in their ranks, not daring to speak. After waiting for about 5 or 6 minutes, a middle-aged man in a western suit appeared at the front of the crowd. Accompanying him was a woman in a cheongsam. The man had a pockmarked face, a potbelly, and a thick gold chain around his neck. The woman behind him, however, appeared petite and delicate, with a graceful figure and beautiful features. "There, that's Manager Chin," Ah New whispered to me. I had heard him mention before that there were many managers in the compound, and the area I was in was under Manager Chin's jurisdiction. Manager Chin's full name was Chin Fangzhou. It was said that he had also started out as a dog pusher, scam, operator, and later, due to his outstanding performance, had been promoted all the way to manager. "I've gathered everyone here mainly because there's good news," Chin Fangzhou said into a microphone, glancing at the crowd. "Today, someone in our C-zone closed a huge deal." As soon as he finished speaking, a man with a center-parted hairstyle wearing a white shirt walked to the front. In the compound, all dog pushers had to wear white shirts. This was the compound's uniform. "Come, tell everyone your name." Chin Fangzhou handed the microphone to the man with the center part. The man took the microphone, lowered his head, and mumbled a name that was completely unintelligible. "Louder," Chin Fangzhou said with a smile. "Chen Shun, tell everyone, how much was the deal you closed today? 2 million. Good, very good. According to our rules here, you are now a team leader. Also, I can grant you one wish. Tell me, what do you want?" Chen Shun appeared somewhat excited. He glanced up at the beautiful young woman beside Chin Fangzhou. "You like her, right?" Chin Fangzhou wasn't angry at all. He pointed at the woman beside him and asked. Chen Shun didn't dare to reply. Chin Fangzhou, however, laughed, pulled the woman over and pushed her into Chen Shun's arms. "She's yours tonight." The woman smiled seductively, wrapped her slender arms around Chen Shun's neck, puckered her lips, and kissed him. "Ha ha ha ha!" Chin Fangzhou laughed and signaled for someone nearby to set off fireworks. Bang! A loud explosion pierced the silent night sky. With this sound, flames broke through the darkness, as if vying with the stars for brilliance. Fireworks bloomed in the air, scattering colorful lights, weaving a splendid tapestry across the night sky. It was also at this moment that Chin Fangzhou led the crowd in chanting slogans: "Fight today, win tomorrow, suffer for a while, relax for a lifetime." Bitter, first, sweet later, sweat today, glory tomorrow.